Welcome back, everybody. My name is Rich from Dgmono, and we have another edition of Video Vinyl Spotlight. I'd like to continue showing you guys all the great records that I got from my Midwest road trip. And the record that I want to show you guys today is this guy right here. McCoy Tyner's The Real McCoy. This record came near the end of my trip. It came from a very fun and rewarding visit to Bop Shop Records in Rochester, New York, which I cannot recommend enough. I actually also, by the way, I felt conflicted about whether or not I should actually mention the name of that store to you guys because it's an awesome store, and I'm like, well, if I go back there, am I going to be tipping off a lot of other collectors to the store and they won't have the things I want because other people will be getting them? And I don't believe in that. I've always believed that there's plenty of records to go around for everyone. But yeah, and they had this copy of McCoy Tyner's The Real McCoy. And yeah, for the price tag, I was just like, wow, this is a really good deal. This is a really fair price. This is the stereo edition, as you can see here. I had an original mono pressing of this many years ago that I won on eBay for like 30 bucks. And I don't know why I sold it. I probably needed the money, and I knew that I could get more for it than I paid for it. And truth be told, I know you guys might get tired of hearing me say this, but this is not one of my favorite albums. But I still really like it a lot, and I'm really excited to have this pressing because it sounds so good, and the music is great. And I'm warming up to the music the more and more I listen to it. It's another testament of having a record, an actual record, and that doing a lot to encourage me to give the music a chance. And you know, I'd hate to think that it's just like, oh, I bought something, I consumed something, so therefore I'm changing my mind about it because it's mine now and I invested money into it. I'd like to think that it's more than that. It's more about that whole, dare I say, spiritual experience of putting the record on the turntable, dropping the needle down, and just hearing the grooves reproduce the sound, you know? It's different, and in ways it just means more. And the truth is under those circumstances, the music, I feel like it demands my attention more and it gets my attention more. I've talked to other collector friends about McCoy Tyner and other musicians in the past, and he's not one of my favorite pianists. I've actually had the privilege of seeing him live at Blue Note Jazz Club in Manhattan several years ago before he passed away. There's always been something about Tyner where he's a very, very intelligent player. Kind of like when I remember I was considering getting a PhD in math at one point, and I heard a professor give a talk related to, like, you know, the kinds of things that you could study at that university. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but I still just totally appreciated his style and the way he talked about math. I totally got something out of it, even though I had no idea what he was talking about in terms of the math that he was explaining. Well, that's how I kind of feel about McCoy Tyner. He's just a really intelligent player that is like, you know, clearly way above my pay grade in terms of understanding jazz, and real fast thinker, and very proficient with both of his hands, constantly amazing and dazzling. You know, really, in a lot of ways, like a virtuoso pianist, which I know gets a bad rap, that phrase, and that kind of pianist collectors don't really gravitate towards usually, because if I had to guess, it has a lot to do with the fact that those pianists actually sold really well in their day and their stuff isn't as rare, so therefore it's not as collectible, right? Textbook examples of that would be Oscar Peterson and Phineas Newborn, for example. Yeah, I mean, for some reason McCoy Tyner does not fall into that camp. I've never heard anybody lump him into the same category as those virtuoso pianists. Probably because he plays with a little bit more attitude and emotion, I would say. With Coltrane, you know, there's so many occasions where, you know, those guys just get firing, and like Tyner is just slamming on those keys. Now that's one thing that I really feel, it's hard not to feel that, you know what I mean? And you know, it's not that I don't like him, it's just that I don't consider him one of my favorites. The vinyl experience seems to always help me lock in on a performer's solos and, you know, just like really be mindful and attentive to what they're doing and what their ideas are. And I've discovered with this pressing specifically of this record that with Tyner, that's what I have to do. Like, I have to give him my undivided attention because it's so easy for him to lose me. You know what I mean? Like, he's moving so quick. His ideas and his hands are moving so quickly that, you know, I really have to be giving him my undivided attention to stay with him. And when I do that, it is a very rewarding listening experience. This is not an original pressing. This is technically a what we call a West Coast Liberty label pressing. And it's got this special kind of goofy looking kind of label that I get the impression that these labels were not, these records were not reissued with this label for very long. I feel like these are not super common. The all blue labels with the black lowercase b and the white b seem like a lot more common for a lot of titles. But this does have Van Gelder in the dead wax. This is essentially made from the same metal masterwork that for the original stereo pressing that would have been cut by Rudy Van Gelder. I did recently get a hold of the Kevin Gray cut that he did for the Blue Note Classic series. I love Kevin. He's like an idol to me in a lot of ways. This was not one of my favorite KG cuts, I have to be honest. You know, he and Joe are both really hardcore about presenting the master tape as one might hear it in Kevin's mastering studio. And what that usually means is that they're not doing any compression, they're doing minimal EQ moves, and as far as I know, Joe and Kevin are really into just letting it fly, like hard left and hard right, which I've grown to appreciate a lot over the years actually, compared to pulling it in a little bit, like Rudy would have done for the original pressings, and Ron McMaster in the 80s with the original Blue Note US CDs. The thing about Kevin's cut was, for me anyways, was that it was very dynamic, but it was actually almost too dynamic, especially for this album in particular. It did sound like in Kevin's cut that Joe Henderson was a little weak as a result. And if I had to guess, it was because of that lack of compression and because they might have just left it hard left, hard right, just hardcore. I went back and I listened to my 80s Ron McMaster CD, and I listened to the RVG edition CD also, my rip of that, and Joe Henderson was more present. When I came across this, I was like, well, it's probably similar to Rudy's RVG edition, and sure enough it is. And it's got a nice balance. All the musicians have a really nice balance between them, and it's a super clean copy. I mean, you know, what more can you ask for as a collector? As far as the music goes, Passion Dance is a great track. I remember kind of thinking that this album in a lot of ways kind of stands as an exclamation point, or the conclusion of the Blue Note Classic era. And Passion Dance just kind of has this like excited, happy kind of vibe to it that really I think would make for really good like end music to a documentary on Blue Note or something, you know. Contemplation is a great emotional, dramatic piece, slower piece of music written by Tyner. 4x5 has this like frantic energy and this really cool time signature, very minimalist composition. Search for Peace is not your typical romantic ballad. It's a ballad that just has like more of an emotional statement to it that really is a more universal kind of a feeling. Blues on the Corner is the only track on this that I would probably skip under most circumstances. I don't know, it's kind of got a quirky melody, and it's got Joe Henderson playing kind of higher notes on the sax, and it just doesn't really do it for me. Unfortunately, when I saw McCoy Tyner live, that's the one song that he played off of this. And it didn't really do much to change my mind about it, unfortunately. But yeah, so this album is still recommended highly. I would even highly recommend it. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.